All right, so you've got your super soil in here, and look, it's compacted enough that it doesn't go through the holes, and now you got to water it. So when we talk about watering, we only talk about the drench method. It's as much water as this pot needs for water to soak down. I'm actually going to do it on this table so you can just see it better. So we're going to take a watering can and we're just going to water on top, and you're just going to keep going until you see water coming from the bottom and you could do that once, you could do that twice. That's called drenching the soil. You want to drench the soil. That way you know that the soil is fully watered. The soil has full water capacity filled up all the way. So now you're going to see a little bit down here coming out. So in your care guide, you're going to see a chart with watering recommendations. This is all about drenching. How often should you drench? So for example, if you're indoors under 60 degrees, you only have to do this once a week, versus if it's outdoors, it's dry, it's not humid, it's a lot of wind, you should be watering your plant every day. So this is just a general recommendation. Every single tree is different. Every tree has a microclimate. It may be against a wall, it may have a drier wind, it may have more humidity in the environment. Depends on what soil you use. We're assuming you're using a mineral-based soil, which needs more water anyway. So use this chart right here and use the drench method. Don't put like 1 gallon or half a gallon. Just keep adding water until you see water draining from the bottom of your pot. So underwatering, overwatering, you'll hear all sorts of things online and advice. With a mineral-based soil, which is what your tree comes in and what we recommend you plant in, it is very hard to overwater your tree. It's easier to underwater your tree. It's harder to overwater your tree. We talked about watering your tree and the guidelines and looking at your tree, but when can you overwater your tree? You can overwater your tree when you stop the drainage. You can stop the drainage by putting anything on the bottom, a little piece of plastic, a little plastic saucer, they call them garden saucers. Put it underneath your plant, and you'll always have that when you're planting indoors. You'll have a garden saucer so that the water doesn't ruin your floors and your furniture. So when you have that garden saucer, none of the water is draining. You've drenched it once, and now that water is just staying in that system. So as it slowly evaporates and it's utilized by the tree, you need to give it some time so that that oxygen can come back in. Don't constantly water that plant. So if you have a plant with a garden saucer, if you drench it, and you may even want to go a little, here's where you want to be a little bit more careful with the watering and drenching it. You don't want to just keep going up until the thing is flooded. You want to do it until you see some water come up in there, or a little bit less, because it's all going to stay in there and it's all going to go towards the tree. That's the situation in which you can overwater your plant. Now, garden saucer, when is it useful for an outdoor plant? Let's say you're leaving on vacation. You can leave on vacation for up to 2 weeks. If you have a garden saucer, then let's say it's hot outside, you have a garden saucer, you want to drench and flood that plant. You want to drench and flood that plant because it's going to lose that water to evaporation, and it's not going to get any watering for the next up to 2 weeks. Okay, over 2 weeks, you definitely need someone to come in and help water your plants. But if you don't have that, one trick you can do is you can use a garden saucer, block that drainage, and you can add a lot of water, and you can add water to the garden saucer as well, knowing it's going to evaporate. And then even after it evaporates, you know, the tree does have some resiliency. It can survive, especially the bigger and stronger it gets. So those are the intricacies of overwatering and underwatering. Caveat is that's with a mineral-based soil. The ultimate guide is your tree. If the leaves are sad, they're wilting, they're browning, it's likely underwatering in a mineral-based soil. So add more water than whatever the guide is. Again, the guide is just a guide. It's not a set rule and such. Then on the next page, you're going to see that we have another guide for light and temperature. Low temperatures are the easiest way to kill your tree. So we have the rule of tens. If your tree is exposed to 10-degree weather, 10 Fahrenheit for 10 hours, it'll die. 20-degree temperature, if you expose it for 20 hours, it'll die. Same, 30 hours and 30-degree temperature. That includes the wind chill. So if it's 30 degrees, but now you have a wind chill and it's actually, it feels like 20, the tree feels the 20-degree temperature, so the 20 hours apply. So under 40 degrees, you want to bring your trees indoors. Now, let's say it's going to be 38 degrees for an hour. That should be, and it's going to warm up to the 50s the next day. That's fine, you can keep your tree outdoors. Remember, your tree has a scion and a rootstock, and they both have different compatibilities towards temperature. So even if one part is more cold hardy, the other may not be. So the easiest way is just under 40 degrees and freezing temperature, get your tree indoors or into a garage where it can be protected, and you'll do very well. That's how you keep, that's the key to keeping citrus in containers. Citrus is a tropical plant, so it actually loves sun. Here in the Rio Grande Valley, we have our groves and we have trees planted in the ground in full heat, 105, 106, 107-degree summer temperatures. Yes, they may wilt a little bit, but they pop right back afterwards. So citrus loves light, citrus loves heat. Get it as much light and as much heat as you can in general. If your tree is struggling a little bit, if it's had some sort of stress, if it's weak, if it's very, very small, that's a good time to give it partial shade. Something like this environment right here, something like maybe a patio, something where, you know, the sun's a little bit away from direct sunlight. Partial light is good for your plant. So those are ways, those are some general guidelines. You can use your care guide for that as well. Again, those are general guidelines on how to get your citrus tree to thrive.